Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show, Tuesday, October 14th. Normally, we do This Week in Politics on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but yesterday was Thanksgiving Monday, so we have a special Tuesday edition of the panel. We're joined by Mike Burns, the CEO of Canada's Valor Games, and Marcel Wieder, president of Aurora Strategy Global, also former Liberal strategist, and I may say I have a professional relationship with both Marcel and Aurora. Welcome to both of you. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Thank you for having us.
Yes, indeed. Marcel, let's start with you. You and I have had many conversations since October 7th, and we've been beating our heads against the wall sometimes, it seems, and here we are on what feels like it could be the beginning of a change in tone, in tenor, as well as possibly the beginning of peace in that region for the first time in a very long time. How are you feeling in these early days of what is supposed to be a long, drawn-out peace plan?
Bittersweet is how I would describe it. You know, certainly I'm thrilled that the 20 hostages have been released. 4 of the deceased have also been released. There's about 20 more that need to come home. You know, the cost of 2 years of war has been a huge. I'm lacking the words because it's such an emotional issue.
Yeah,
it really has affected not only Israel but the Jewish communities around the world. We've seen protests that we've had to deal with day in and day out. We've seen synagogues being torched in Australia, you know, firebombed in Montreal, in Vancouver. Daily protests throughout the world, and you know, hopefully with this ceasefire and negotiations, it will help bring about resolution.
Yeah, Mike Burns, I'd love to know your sense of, you know, as Israel has demonstrated its willingness to sign their name to an accord, and then keep their word by withdrawing so long as they got their hostages back, which is what they said was the reason for this since the beginning. Give us our hostages back and the war ends. They've demonstrated that. I believe that what that also demonstrates is if you believe that genocide, and don't believe it, genocide is a crime of intent, and you have to have the intention to want to liquidate a people. They have demonstrated in this willingness to stay true to their word that there was never any intent to liquidate anyone. And to me, that blows such a hole into the useful idiots and their arguments and the chaos that they have sown throughout the Western world for 2 years. I wonder your thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you, Ben. I never believed for a minute that this was should ever have been characterized as a genocide. But you know, look, it was very difficult yesterday to not be emotional watching the hostages being reunited with their families. It was a great thing to see. It was long overdue, and it was great that it finally came to pass. As for the peace plan, though, I think you know, it's a mix of both. You know, the ceasefire and the hostages release matter, but this plan is still more about headlines right now than hard enforcement. And until we see who actually governs Gaza and how security is going to be maintained, it's a truce and not transformation.
Well, then, Marcel, what do we do then? Because Hamas has been pretty clear that they are not going to put down their arms, that they want to say in the future government of Gaza. I mean, those are non-starters for Israel. Those are non-starters for the Western world.
Exactly. It's a non-starter. And in fact, we're seeing, even though Israel withdrew, they're now the Hamas people are attacking various clans and revenge on some of their own people in Gaza.
Yeah.
So that sends a very clear signal that they can't govern that territory, that it has to be something else.
So what do we do? And I'll stick with you for a moment, Marcel, because the U.S. would not have come this far only to throw their hands up and say, oh, well, I guess it's just a ceasefire if Hamas wants nothing. I mean, if Hamas is going to break this deal, then we're back to square one. I can't believe that Donald Trump and his team are going to let that come to pass. I mean, if push comes to shove.
No, I agree with you.
So what do you think? If Hamas is true to their word and they do not put down their weapons, and that is the impediment to this thing moving forward, something tells me that Hamas is going to F around and find out.
Well, listen, what was interesting at the signing yesterday with Trump was Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. And all those three are acting as guarantors.
Yeah.
Which, in the case of Qatar, they were basically the patrons for
Yes.
Hamas. And so if they are saying to Hamas, you're not going to participate, then that puts them offside.
Yeah.
And so I think, if we have this international stabilization force, which is going to be comprised of Arab states and some foreign, then if they come into Gaza and disarm Hamas as is envisioned, then I think that's going to help transform things.
Mike Burns, what do we do with the Canada of it all? I was perplexed and said as much on this show when we, as a nation, recognized the state of Palestine before any of the quote-unquote preconditions that were laid out by Mark Carney and his government were ever achieved, still haven't been achieved. And you had Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, coming out and saying that countries like Canada, I don't believe he named us by name, but he said that countries that did so only emboldened Hamas, making the job to securing this peace made it all the harder. So to turn around and hear members of this government kind of take credit and say that they were part of this process kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a stretch. I never agreed with the government announcing their recognition of the Palestinian state. I thought it was, a thank you to Hamas. But look, the reality is Canada's strength isn't military. It's going to be moral and diplomatic. And I think, to give Carney some kudos, I think he's playing the long game here. When what I mean by that, he's positioning Canada hopefully as a trusted bridge between Western allies and our Arab partners. And we certainly have the ability to bring credibility and capacity, even if we can't dictate the outcomes in the Middle East.
Marcel, you want to say something?
Yeah, and if you recall, when France recognized the state of Palestine, Hamas immediately broke off any further negotiations and prolonged the war even further and more casualties. So, the recognition of Palestine didn't move the yardsticks forward, they moved them backwards.
I agree. And Mike, I take your point. I take that you want to be magnanimous, and he claims he's playing the long game, but it was exceptionally short-sighted to recognize a state that is incapable of being a state in any legal way. They are not a state yet. I want the Palestinian people to live in their own state. I 100% want that. But you got to take the world as it is, not as you wish it would be. And so to me, that was more of a fantasy land, Pinterest board hope that one day it could be a state. It could be a state today. If we just say it, if enough of us say it, they will be a state. That's nonsense. And if as you say, it's is the case that Canada's strength is in its diplomacy, then we kind of prove that we're not seeing the world as it is. That one thing that we're supposed to have as a strength is not there. We don't have the military, and we don't have the foresight to see into the future just a little bit. And so, to me, it's a little rich. I mean, we saw a member of the UK cabinet come out and essentially thank America for participating in this, as if they were the ones having the conversations. And then you had Mike Huckabee, the American ambassador to Israel, saying that this woman is delusional. And I think there's a little bit of revisionist history going on amongst these countries that were very quick to recognize a Palestinian state in the hopes of getting on board on the right side of history, Marcel.
Absolutely. They didn't really contribute much. It was a U.S.-led effort. I have to give credit, as much as I'm not akin to doing this, to President Trump and to Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth and to General sorry,
that's okay.
lost. But anyways, the U.S. diplomatic team with Jared Kushner, et cetera, were the ones who drove this.
Yep.
There was no outside participation by the UK or France or anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, the Americans talked to the Turks, to the Bahrainis, to the other Arab countries, and brought them on side. The UK didn't.
Yep. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to live in the optimistic world where peace is indeed at hand. The question is, what's next? How to rebuild Gaza, how to turn it into that state that Canada seems to want it to be. Don't go anywhere. This is the Ben Mulroney Show. Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show. All right, we're talking, this is a pretty much an all Gaza, all peace plan this week in politics special Tuesday edition with Marcel Wieder and Mike Burns. Mike, before the break, there was something you wanted to add.
Oh, listen, I just wanted to say there's an old saying just about success. And what I was going to say was success has many authors and defeat is an orphan. And I think that there's a lot of people that are piling on and trying to take credit for what happened over the weekend.
Well, what I find interesting is you've got so much buy-in for this plan from so many stakeholders in the Middle East, and you've got, white saviors over here cosplaying as terrorists. I'm going to use all the buzzwords. White saviors cosplaying and mansplaining why this is not good for the Palestinian people.
Justice warriors.
Oh, yes, they're social justice. But of course, this is not good enough for them. It's not good enough for, even though Hamas has agreed to this. I mean, now there are caveats to what they've agreed to, but I look around what's next, and when there's the opening of a cafe in Gaza called Cafe Nova. That
beautiful.
I mean, it's a good looking cafe, but are you telling me that this is that something like that could even happen? Essentially, a cafe honoring October 7th. To me, it flies in the face of this idea that everybody in Gaza is innocent at the mercy of the bloodthirsty death cult. Like, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people there who could have that are not as innocent as we would want them to be. I don't know how else to say it. They're not as innocent as we want them to be.
No, exactly that. And the fact is that we're seeing Hamas play out its revenge on people, falsely accusing people of being collaborators so that they can get rid of them. We've seen executions that were filmed and posted on social media.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. But when you see that and you see how many people pulled out their phones to record this, they weren't recording it for posterity. They were recording it to put out on social media, which tells me they know that there are people on this side of the ocean who will make excuses for it. They will find a way to turn that into Israel's fault.
Yeah, listen, look, Hamas is a death cult. And what we're seeing since, this weekend's announcement is that they have no regard for their own people. They're now reemerging. And that's why any peace process that leaves them intact is peace in name only. Yeah. They have to be removed from this process.
And that's why Donald Trump, I think you got to say, he's the right kind of crazy to be understood by terror. And I mean that respectfully. Like, there are people who say, oh, he's insane. You know what? That's a type of insane that terrorists understand, right? And because they know he is not messing around. And I got to think that he is the reason that you've got Qatar willing to play by the rules. They have been an outlier. They have been funding these guys. They are the birthplace and the home of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is a moment in time where a guy like him, he's the only guy that they will respect because they believe that he will do what he says he's going to do. Marcel?
Well, when you look at, Trump gave the green light to Israel to bomb Iran and then participated in taking out some of the nuclear facilities that Iran had. And then when Israel went into Doha in Qatar, that sent a very clear message. So, having that, I think those two events helped change the course of things and resulted in this.
So are we saying, look, obviously we got to be cynical. We've all seen this script before, this early part of the script before, where there's hope and there are handshakes and there are signatures and there are photo ops. And then we've seen everything fall apart. We've seen it happen before, but that doesn't mean that just because it hasn't happened before, it can't happen now. What is it going to take for Hamas? I mean, is Hamas, are they just posturing right now? Is this their death rattle, Mike? Or is Donald Trump, are the stakeholders in the Middle East going to tell them, put down your arms, or we're going to, or you're not going to see tomorrow? I mean, is that a realistic hope?
Yeah, look, I obviously, like you and others, don't trust Hamas at all. Look, if there's going to be success in this region, it's got to start with security and governance, and not cement trucks. I absolutely believe that Gaza needs to be demilitarized and locally led by people the world trusts.
Yeah.
We're not just rebuilding the runway for the next round of violence.
Yeah.
Hamas has got to be removed.
They have to be removed, and you're right. There have to be independent third parties in charge, at least temporarily, to de-radicalize the youth who have been sold a bill of goods. They've been educated. The Israelis are born of demons and animals. I mean, they've been fed an indoctrination, the likes of which I've never seen before.
Just look at some of the school books that come from UNRWA that have penetrated through the school system. You're absolutely right. And if you've seen some of the videos of kids, 4 or 5 years old, wearing the headbands of Islamic Jihad and Hamas and holding toy guns, etc., it's unbelievable. And anyone who cares about kids, can't accept that sort of indoctrination.
Yeah, it's but that is essential to this. I mean, just as we denazified Germany, and that didn't take nearly as long as it's going to take in Gaza, that is essential to the path moving forward. But there's part of me, guys, that is optimistic. I mean, I want to believe, I'm choosing to believe that the Americans would not go down this path if they didn't have the courage of their convictions and if they didn't know that things might get a little messy before they get clean. Mike?
Yeah, listen, like you, I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to work. The plan is never perfect. But look, after months of horror, even an imperfect peace is worth trying. And so, I'm hopeful that we can face the challenges of the Middle East as a global community and turn this thing around. But it's going to take a lot of commitment and execution in the coming months and years to make this right.
Marcel, the final word to you, my friend.
Listen, I share Mike's view that I'm cautiously optimistic. We've seen the script before, and hopefully it has a different ending.
Yeah. Well, I want to read a couple of texts from some of our listeners who said it is so amazing that millions of people across the world have prayed so much for 20 people they never knew and will likely never meet. It speaks to the humanity that we believe in and the connection that we have to those within our community. There was beauty in the sadness. I mean, the sadness of what was lost, the sadness in the pain that so many have endured, the sacrifice that so many in Israel have had to shoulder. And yet there was joy and celebration that in and of itself is beautiful. What did someone say? I went to see Adam Sandler on Sunday night, and as soon as I got home, I put on TV. I didn't turn it off until sometime after 5 a.m. as I needed to make sure all the live hostages were safely back in Israel. And there was something, pardon? That was from Jessica. Also, because I'm a narcissist, I love your show and everything you've said since October 7th. Thank you to all of you, and thank you for your honest and raw feedback. To the both of you, I say thank you very much. And here's to many more conversations that we can have that are positive and optimistic in nature. I wish you the very best in this short work week. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.